Okay, so this week I have been posting all over my social media and in my stories, and last week too. And I even chatted with you last week about how I was getting ready to go on this trip, right? And talked about the stress of doing all the things. And several people reached out and asked me, like, how do you eat while you're gone? Vacations are so hard. Like, how do you not gain a lot of weight? Or do you gain a lot of weight when you go on vacation and travel? And that is a struggle that so many of the women in my 12-week program deal with, and it really challenges them. So I thought this week, and I kind of planned while I was gone so I could do this for you, but I thought this week would be a really great time. Summer's coming up, warmer weather. You know, we travel a lot more, I think, even during the summertime, and our routines and schedules are all kind of out of sync. I thought it would be a great time to talk a little bit about the anxiety around travel as it relates to the worry about bloating and gaining weight, and we look forward to having fun and taking a vacation, but how many times do you come back feeling like, oh my gosh, I overdid it, I shouldn't have drank so much, I shouldn't have eaten so much, and you step on the scale and it's 3 pounds, 5 pounds, 8 pounds, 10 pounds even heavier than when you left. And then you go through the mind game of I shouldn't have, and I just screwed everything up, and now I'm fatter than I was before, and on and on and on, right? If you can relate, I would love to hear from you. It doesn't have to be that way. One of the things that we help women in our 12-week MRS program do is strategize for life, okay? And it's not about a diet. Your goals and your desire to lose weight, get healthy, all of those things, you tell me all the time, you want it to be a lifestyle. And so you can't make it a lifestyle, but then give up life to get where you want to be. And what I mean by that is we often make the mistake as women of saying, okay, this is going to be my season to lose weight, get healthier, eat better, whatever, right? Like we outline those goals. And then what we do is we make all these changes to our lives that are not realistic. They're not real life. Like we say, okay, I'm not going to eat any sugar at all. I'm not going to have any treats at all. I'm not going to, I'm going to forego the birthday party cake or whatever it is. I'm going to go on this diet, right? I'm going to change everything about the way I eat. And sometimes that works for us to lose weight. And some of us have even reached big goals doing those things. If you can be disciplined enough and stick to it enough for long enough, we've put ourselves through this cycle of doing that, hitting a goal, and then what happens? All the weight comes right back. Because what we've done is we've put ourselves into an unrealistic situation. No matter how long we can sustain that, whether it's a week, a month, or many months, it's still unrealistic. And we're not living our lives truly. We are making the diet fit into our life, and that's always a temporary approach to making change. What we have to do, and what we truly mean when we talk about a lifestyle change, is we have to actually make our goals fit into our lives. And we have to make whatever actions we're going to take to reach those goals fit into our lives. Super plain example. You are not going to stop going on vacation. I'm not. I hope you're not. It's part of our lives. It's part of what I worked really hard in my career to get to the point where we could afford a vacation. So I'm not going to stop taking vacations. What I have to do, and this is what I teach women in our 12-week program, is we have to learn how to take vacations in a way that suits our new lifestyle, that allows us to take action where we enjoy our vacation. We don't sabotage our lifestyle. We don't sabotage our goals, whether we're on the way to them or we've achieved them. And it's just a new way of vacationing. I hope that makes sense. So that's why I'm doing this episode today. I want to really make sure that you guys understand, when I go on vacation, it doesn't look like some crazy food freaks vacation where I don't enjoy what I'm doing. I don't enjoy what I'm having. And it also doesn't look like me coming home and weighing 5 pounds more. So how do I do that? Well, okay, so it takes a little strategizing, it takes a little planning, or it used to take that for me in the beginning. Now it just comes naturally to me because that's just how I vacation. But it's a little strategizing when you're first learning to do it this way. And these are the things that I teach. Again, I teach our clients in our 12-week program. And it can look a little different depending on what your goals are, right? Like if, for example, I'll take a little jaunt here. If, someone is in our 12-week program, a woman's in our 12-week program, and she has a goal to lose, 30 pounds, for example, and she's taking a vacation and she's maybe a month into her coaching work with us and on her journey, we talk to her about, like, so what is your goal with this vacation? You're going on vacation for a week. What is your goal? Do you want to continue to actively pursue goals and making progress, and you don't want to interrupt that? So you want to lose weight potentially and continue with your plan to move forward? Or does that look like you'd like to go on your vacation, enjoy your vacation, not really put too much thought into strategizing and maintain your weight loss? So I make that point because not everyone's strategy is going to be exactly the same, right? And so, with clients in that 12-week program, we find out what your goals are so that we can help you strategize appropriately. What I'm going to do today is I want to give you some explanation as to how I approach vacations at this stage for me, and give you a lot of really good tips that you can pick up on. And some, not all of these you'll want to use, but I hope I give you enough tips and advice that you can pick and choose and put some strategies in place for your next vacation that will help you to navigate that travel in a way that you can enjoy your vacation still, and not feel like, oh my gosh, I came home weighing 8 pounds more. Okay, deal. So the first thing that I will say is, think about your vacation in sections, okay? So for example, for us, we were flying out of the country. And so we had a day of travel. And I think it's a really good idea to think about travel days versus days on your vacation in different ways, and kind of plan differently for those. So for example, travel days, especially if you are, well, I won't say especially if you're traveling by air, but you have different sets of challenges if you're going by air versus, say, you're going on a road trip, right? So, air travel can make things a little more complicated. Not to say that you can't overcome them with some strategy that I'm going to give you, but it can make things a little bit more complicated because you might not have as easy of access to food if you're driving, those kinds of things. It also, you're going to keep in mind some things as I tell you about this. I want you to keep in mind, I'm going to separate this in terms of like how you can eat and tips for that, but also tips for how you can avoid some of the other kinds of complications that oftentimes add weight. For example, or add like a discomfort too. You come home feeling bloated and swollen and those kinds of things. So with air travel, changes in the altitude, sitting on a plane in a pressurized environment, can create inflammation. It can contribute to bloat. It can add some not so comfortable and potentially some issues and side effects that you need to deal with. And so you really want to attend to a few things when you're traveling. Same thing when you're driving long hours in the car, and I'll talk about that too. But planning for travel days is especially important. some non-food kinds of considerations. You want to make sure that you're traveling in very comfortable clothes, comfortable shoes, not restrictive like, jeans or pants. And there's tons of stuff on social media that you can find about like good travel days, consult your local consult your favorite fashion influencer. They talk about travel outfits all the time, and we'll have links to Amazon outfits for you. But seriously, you don't want to wear super tailored clothes. You want to be comfortable so that you're not getting bound up, so that you can give your muscles and give your body some freedom to. And as I'm saying this, if you're not watching me on YouTube, you're listening to the audio podcast, I'm like stretching my shoulders. But you want to give yourself that room, if you will, and the comfort level in your clothes so that you can do some stretching. You can get up and walk, those kinds of things. It also, if you don't have something tight across your gut, it can help with potential digestion issues, bloating, those kinds of things. So the comfort level is something that really you need to pay attention to. And then how you can plan for and anticipate struggles with food on especially long travel days. One of the things that I started doing early on, and I made sure that I do this no matter what kind of trip we're taking. I take healthy snacks with me that I can take on the plane. For example, you can take nuts, you can take prepackaged little mixed nuts and dried cranberries and those kinds of things, and you can get healthy versions of these in little individualized snack packs. You can take whole grain crackers, protein bars, and you have to be cautious about those. But if you want some tips on protein bars and how to pick them, hit me up. I'm happy to tell you. But you can take fresh fruit. You can take foods like that on the plane. I always have them in my backpack or my carry-on. I make sure that I have plenty, and in fact, I have extra. You want to make sure that you have a refillable bottle with you. You can't take water through TSA security checks, clearly, but you can take a water bottle with you and make sure that as long as it's empty when you go through the TSA checkpoint, you can fill it up. Most every airport will have the fountain kinds of fillers. You can fill it up, and you want to make sure that you are even hydrating more than you will at home, because again, altitude, compression, all of those things can create some dehydration kinds of issues for you. Your body will swell and you'll have some inflammation. So it's super important to stay hydrated. It's also important to stay hydrated because there may be times where you're definitely not going to be on a normal kind of routine eating schedule. If you've got a long day of air travel, it's not going to be as easy for you to, have breakfast, have lunch, have dinner. And if you're hydrating really, really well, it can help you to avoid overeating by the time you do get to your destination. It has been a long time between you having a meal. Another reason you want to make sure the snacks that you have are protein snacks, because you want to get protein in your body. It is satiating. It will help you to keep from being too hungry and overeating. And then if you are stuck in an airport, which, it happens with delays, and, you can only eat so many snacks, right? And so you're making a choice to go into, if you're in one of the larger airports, there are a lot of different kinds of chain restaurants. But if you're in an airport to eat a meal, you want to look for healthier options. Typically, people will go for salads. I always caution clients about that, because sometimes salads, just the way that they're put together, are not the healthiest versions. And so if you do a salad, make sure it's like a mixed green. You don't want to have tons of blue cheese and all that kind of, heavy fat cheeses on it. And you don't want the saucy stuff, right? And so things like grilled chicken, apples, strawberries, bananas, some nuts. Ask for a vinaigrette kind of dressing or whatever dressing options that you can choose. Have those served on the side. Avoid anything that's going to be processed kinds of meats. You don't want like salami and those kinds of things on your salads, particularly in an airport restaurant. You don't know where that food is sourced. So try to stick with like the grilled chicken kinds of things so that you can get some protein but you're having a really healthy greens. And then avoid the sugary drinks while you're traveling. Really do some herbal tea, have your water again. One of the things that I've just kind of made it a rule, and I don't enjoy, I don't drink sodas anymore. I gave them up. In fact, it's been 10 years ago this month. I have not had a sugary drink, and it's just kind of a thing. Now it's like a, I don't know, it's a badge of honor, I guess. So I don't want to have them. But even before that, I said, okay, like when I'm traveling, one thing that I can do is I'm not going to drink sodas. And so, that kind of a little rule, if you want to make it for yourself, can help you to really cut down on the amount of, sugar and calories that you're taking in that really aren't satiating. It's just like liquid calories, right? So opt to have water as much as you can, or even tea. And then just really, your eating patterns are disrupted. Like I said already, you're not going to be able to eat as routinely. You're not probably going to get to make the same choices. And so really try to think about like overindulging and avoiding it as much as possible. You don't want to get bored waiting for the plane, for example, and just mindlessly snack and eat all the snacks that you brought with you. Think about portion sizes. Think about, are you actually hungry, or are you eating out of boredom because your flight got delayed? Or are you stressed because, the family members who are traveling with you are driving you nuts? And so you're eating, from an emotional component. Try to really be conscious of what you're eating, how much you're eating, and why you're eating it. And, use small snacks to satisfy hunger, rather than as a distraction from stress, anxiety, or otherwise. All right. And then take opportunities when you can to move around. On travel days, you're likely going to be stuck in a pretty confined space. And, unless you're flying first class, which I don't usually, you're packed in there. And so it can be a long time of being uncomfortable and getting stiff. And so take opportunities before you board the plane. Don't just sit at the gate and be stationary. Walk around as much as you can. Walk some during the flight. There's nothing to say that you can't get up and go to the restroom at the front of the plane, even though you're at the back of the plane. Just stand up and stretch your legs. Do some really simple kinds of exercises at your seat. I do some, real simple stretching of my arms and flexing my calves so I can stretch out my calves and ankle areas, that kind of thing. It can really minimize the disruption of your body's internal clock, the lotion in your joints, if you will, so that you're not getting so stiff. And it can just make your body feel better, and you don't have so much of an exhausted kind of feeling from travel. Also think about, how far your trip is, how far you are traveling. And if you're flying overnight, our flight this last weekend was just a little over 2 hours, about 2.5 hours. It wasn't too bad. We didn't travel across time zones at this time of year, but in many instances, you will be traveling across potentially many time zones, and you are disrupting your eating schedule already. And so it is easy for your body's like internal clock to get disrupted, which can also lead to overeating and exhaustion and fatigue. And so you want to think about trying to get yourself aligned to your destination's time zone as soon as you possibly can. If you get somewhere and it's really late, for example, and maybe you haven't had a full meal, maybe have a snack and go ahead and go to bed, and then get up the next morning and have your breakfast on time for that time zone. And that can help to reset your body's internal clock. You also want to think about managing emergencies, right? You're bringing snacks in your carry-on, for example, but what if you have an unexpected flight cancellation due to weather or otherwise? Or if you have, you miss your connecting flight. You want to think about those kinds of emergencies and how that will impact your health goals. And so plan ahead, pack wisely, really listen to your body's hunger cues, your full cues throughout that journey, and do as best as you can to keep yourself kind of on track through the travel period. Now, once you get to your location, then it's like, okay, I'm winding down. I'm here on vacation. A lot of us take the attitude of like, throw it all out the window and just go all in, eat all the things, drink all the things. It's kind of almost a perception of what vacation is about, right? And so I would encourage you to think about, before you even leave, what is the purpose of this vacation? What is it that you really want to enjoy? Why are you going where you're going? For example, we were traveling, it was my birthday, and we were going to celebrate one of our kiddos got married. So the purpose of that vacation was, sure, I wanted to relax and unwind on the beach and spend some, time in the sun and relaxing. I didn't go there to, run a marathon and, go to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. I wanted to relax. And so I did that. But I was there to enjoy family and friends and celebrations and time alone with Roger, right? And so it wasn't about just being a glutton and eating all the food, even though there were tons of celebratory kinds of meals, but that wasn't my goal with that trip. So take some time to really think about, like, what is it that you will remember about this trip? What are the memories that you want to cultivate and create to come home with? I'm willing to bet that it's not a memory of eating the cake after dinner. It's not the memory of how many meals you can like stuff in. It's the other kinds of things that will be much more valuable to you. And so kind of plan ahead in terms of that sort of a purpose, and get your mindset really focused on what it is, what's the intention, what do you really want to come away with? And that can help you with managing your approach to food while you're there. I laid on the beach for the most part. I didn't work out a single day that I was there. I took some walks, but I'm saying, I didn't do any kind of formal exercise while I was there. But I didn't come home and have gained anything. In fact, I'll tell you a little bit about that before I end. But my point is, I still relaxed, chilled out, laid on the beach like a beach bum. And I ate with some of the strategy that I'm about to give you, which didn't disrupt my health goals. Okay. So planning ahead, whether you're at a resort or you've taken, a trip to a city where you're going to be wandering around and there are restaurants that you're going to eat in, whatever the situation is, plan ahead. Find out what your options are for food. Are you staying in a hotel room, for example, where every meal will be eaten out at a restaurant? Then do your research, investigate what are the options that you have for restaurants and food options within those restaurants at your vacation destination. Do that in advance so that you can look at what healthy choices do they offer? Where is it that I'm going that I want to really splurge on this particular night at this place because they've got something that's just amazing and I don't have an opportunity to eat at home? But really make sure you kind of look at that and plan over the course of the time that you'll be there, not just like off the cuff, wherever you wind up, you're stuck getting whatever, right? Because if I know that we're going to a restaurant, for example, 2 nights into our trip that has phenomenal reputation for amazing food and their dessert is first rate, I'm probably going to choose to indulge in some of those things. But that means I'm going to want to know in advance, because I'm not going to want to eat heavy and a lot the 2 nights leading up to that. It's kind of like I want to save my splurge for where it really matters, right? That's the kind of planning that you can do that doesn't take much time at all over the course in advance of going, so that over the course of your vacation, you haven't just wound up like happenstance picking food and then going, 3 nights in a row, I've really overdone it and I feel sick to my stomach now and I can already tell my tummy's like poking out. Side note here, for many women our age, when we travel, our digestion also gets disrupted. It is super common for me to hear, I cannot have a bowel movement while I'm on vacation. I'll be gone for a week and I won't go to the bathroom the whole time that I'm there. Keep that in mind as I'm talking through how to plan food, because the way that I'm telling you to strategize and plan can really help to minimize or even eliminate those kinds of digestion struggles. So, the hydration, the making sure you're getting vegetables in, opting for salads with, with grilled chicken on it, not eating heavy creams for every single meal. All of those things are going to help your digestive system continue to work in as close to as a normal process as you possibly can, even though you may have that sort of traveler's constipation that so many women our age get. And I can give you some tips for how to kind of help alleviate that too. Pack smart. Again, it goes back to packing. When you're packing for snacks for travel days, you also want to have healthy snacks that you've packed for outings. For example, if you're going to be out shopping during the day, then you want to have some snacks. You don't want to be at the mercy of whatever you can grab on the street as you're walking through an unknown city. And, easy things that are lightweight to pack and that you can keep, in a backpack: nuts, seeds, dried foods, those kinds of things, portable kind of cracker packages that can really help you to stay satisfied between meals and help you to not overeat when you do go in, and at a restaurant and have a meal. And this is the same that goes for, like, we were at a resort that had multiple restaurants on site. And so we ate on site every night. We weren't like out and about in the city. But again, I thought about these things so that the night that we were going to the steakhouse, I knew what I wanted to enjoy. And that day for lunch, I had a really great mixed green salad with excuse me, with grilled chicken on it that was very delicious and satisfying. But I didn't skip lunch so that I was starving when I went to have the steak dinner. And I didn't like overeat in an indulgent kind of way midday meal and then have a heavy like red meat meal at night with mashed potatoes and dessert, which I did also have that night. So you're kind of trying to balance out your food across the day too. Think about how to balance your plate, right? Also, I will do things like, if I am going to an Italian restaurant, which one of the places we went while we were there was an Italian restaurant, and I love eggplant parmesan. Well, or the lasagna. That's a lot heavier, gooey cheese, not really, have any vegetables, that kind of thing. And so I want to think about, like, how will I make my food choices so that I can balance some really healthy, nutritious options, not just eat super heavy pasta, cheese, and meat kind of thing. And so how can I balance my plate in a way that I am getting some lean protein? I am going to have some whole grains. I am going to have some healthy fats, and I'm going to have plenty of fruits and vegetables over the day and across the time that I'm there. And I really kind of, a really good rule of thumb, whether you're on vacation or not, is to think about how you plate your food and try to organize your plate or make your choices in the sense of, I want about half of what I eat to be vegetables and fruits. And I don't mean like fried veggies, right? I don't mean French fries, but I mean some greens, steamed veggies, those kinds of things that are not going to be heavy with butter all over them and cheeses all over them, that kind of thing, and fruits. And don't even get me started. Sometimes people will say, oh, well, fruit has sugar in it. That's baloney. Eat fruit. It's good for you. You want to make sure, again, you're staying hydrated throughout the day, especially in the summertime. It is too easy to not get enough hydration. For example, we were at the beach, and we happened to have the luxury of having a bartender who came right down to the seats and brought us drinks. And it was unlimited, and it was, all day long. And be honest, I was drinking champagne at 10:30 in the morning on the beach. Well, you want to make sure that you're mindful of that, because it's easy, if you are drinking, it's easy to kind of, lose your senses a little bit and not care as much about your health goals. And so a really good rule of thumb, and I think in general, anytime you're drinking, but especially when you're on vacation, and especially if you're in a warm or a hot climate, like at the beach or spending time at a lake house, is It's a 1-to-1 kind of ratio. You have one drink, you have one water. I always order a drink with a water. And I make sure that I drink that glass of water right along with that drink. In fact, I go from water to drink to water to drink like that. But I wouldn't order another drink until I've drank all of that glass of water. And that's just a really good habit to get into, to make sure that you're kind of watering down the alcohol in your system. You're making sure that your cells are getting hydrated, and you're giving your liver a little bit of a break that way. So choose wisely. I've talked about that. Really indulge mindfully. I think that's a really good tip. I absolutely tell clients in our 12-week program, and my practice is that I'm going to enjoy treats. I'm going to enjoy desserts while I'm on vacation, but I really do it intentionally and mindfully. Like I said, I don't have a dessert every single time I eat a meal. I pick something that I would really enjoy. I want to savor it. I eat it slowly. I really enjoy the taste and the texture of the food, and I don't guilt trip myself about it. But again, I do it where it counts, right? Like, I had wedding cake at the wedding. At the steakhouse, I had a dessert that was amazing. It was like an apple crunchy caramely something with some ice cream on it. I didn't even eat the whole thing because it was so rich that I didn't need it. I didn't want it. But if I had have wanted to eat every bite, I would have eaten every bite. But I didn't just go crazy eating all the desserts just because they're there. That is a danger if you go to a place that has buffet too, is just like wanting to eat all the things, right? So you want to make sure if you do go into a buffet, do not go in overly hungry. Make sure that you have had a meal earlier in the day, or that you're snacking, so you don't go in that starving mode, right? In general, alcohol is super fun on vacation. We enjoy it. We typically go to resorts where it's all inclusive, and the drinks are, you can have as much as you want, right? But be cautious of the alcohol. Like I said, make sure that you're not doing it in a way that you're lowering your inhibitions around other food choices, and also just being safe, right? Like, especially if you're in a location that isn't home, you want to make sure that you're staying aware and being wise about safety too. But it does make it easier for you to overeat if you're enjoying a lot of alcohol. It just kind of lowers your inhibitions, and you can eat too much and make choices that aren't in line with what you wish that you had made. So alternate the water. Like I said, staying active. I laid on the beach for a majority of the time, but we walked down the beach. We walked around the resort. You might be able to even do things like, if you enjoy going hiking or going swimming, or taking a long walk each day, be mindful of how you can get around on foot, and make sure that you aren't just sitting and doing nothing. Not only because the calorie expenditure and the energy expenditure, but also, again, that's going to help with your digestive system. It's going to help keep your body not as achy, your joints, your hips, your knees, all those things that us old people have to worry about. And really listen to your body. Listen to it in terms of its achiness. Listen to it in terms of its hunger cues, full cues. Eat when you're hungry, and stop when you're satisfied. Just because you're on vacation doesn't mean that you have to try every single food on the buffet bar, and you have to eat until you have that, like, oh, I'm stuffed feeling. And practice self-compassion. For goodness sake, please do that. You are on vacation. You are, having an opportunity to enjoy yourself. And it's totally fine to engage in some indulgence. Occasionally, that's part of life, right? One meal that you go nuts on, or some dessert, crazy, over the top kind of decadent dessert, is not going to derail your progress. I don't care what anybody says. It all kind of balances out, right? So be kind to yourself. If you focus on making kind of the overall, those choices that are in line with you having fun, but still reaching the goals that you have set out for that vacation, you're going to be totally fine. And when you use some of the steps that I'm talking to you about, You can enjoy your vacation. What you did can support your health and your weight management goals, and it definitely supports your mental health to be able to get away. And I don't care what anybody says, it is super important for you to learn some grace and to give yourself this opportunity to have a real life vacation and learn how to take that vacation, like I said, in a way that it's part of life. And so you need to learn how to make that lifestyle on your vacation work for you too. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, so one of the things I wanted to tell you is kind of like, what did a day look like for me? So I've given you all these like strategies, like in general kinds of strategies. But here I'll tell you, like, what did a day of food look like for me? And if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably going to see some photos be interspersed in here because I took photos to share with you too. But, in general, in the morning, we got up kind of early, I guess, for a vacation. I like getting down to the beach early, getting in really cool chair. But we have breakfast. We go to breakfast downstairs. I typically either make coffee in our room or I go down and get coffee and then come back up. We get ready and generally we go to a kind of an international kind of buffet when we're on this type of a beach vacation. And breakfast is a meal that I think we can tend to go overboard on. And for me personally, I enjoy breakfast, but for me personally, going overboard and indulging on breakfast is not what would give me the greatest satisfaction. So I like to have a really healthy, balanced breakfast without going nuts. And what I mean by that is typically you're going to, whether you're at a restaurant or you're at a buffet kind of resort style restaurant, you typically are going to have some options for having eggs, having omelets, or something like that that can be kind of the mainstay, the center piece of your meal, the appetizer, or not the appetizer, the entree sort of piece of your meal. I think about that first, and I enjoy omelets. And so I would have a mix of an egg and egg white omelet made because egg whites have more protein in them, and I wanted to get that boost of protein. And then I picked vegetables to put in my omelet that I enjoy. So packed with, spinach and mushrooms and tomatoes and zucchini even, and all the good things. I did have some cheese on mine because I enjoy cheese on my omelet. And so I had a really hefty, nice size omelet serving. And then I would pick a couple of other things. For example, on one day I might get some, a small portion of oatmeal. Now I didn't dump brown sugar and all those things in it, but I did that. Another day I got a piece of whole wheat or sprouted bread. I always get a plate of different kinds of fruits to go with it. And then, if there was something else that I wanted, for example, if maybe there was a little bit of bacon and I really wanted that, or and on another day there were muffins that looked really, really good, and so I, got a muffin. And those are the kinds of things that I don't typically eat all of it. I'll take a bite or two because I want to enjoy the taste, the flavor of it, but I don't need to eat the whole thing, right? I focused on making sure that I got that protein in with my omelet, and I was satisfied. So that kind of held me over because I was also going to be around water. And when you're around water and out in the sun, we tend to get a little hungrier. The other thing is every day, what I do on these vacations is as we're leaving breakfast, I always get a piece of fresh fruit or two and I stick in my beach bag for that to be like a mid-morning snack. So I would grab an apple or I would grab a banana or both, and I would stick those in my bag. And then I made sure that I, filled up my water bottle and we headed out to the beach. And then I enjoyed reading or, playing, laying around, taking a nap, whatever, out on the beach. And when it came time for lunch, I want to get a lot of vegetables in. And so my choice for lunch is a mixed greens plate or something of that nature. I don't do heavy on the carbs. They're always going to have like the hamburgers and the nachos and the french fries and all of those kinds of things. And that just doesn't make me feel good for the afternoon. And I know that that kind of heavier sort of food options will mess with my digestive system. So I want to make sure that I have the fruit, like I said, and I have plenty of greens midday. Sometimes there have been times where they have like a kind of a snack bar and they'll have soft served ice cream, and I'll get a cone, whatever options they have. And I don't feel like a big giant ice cream cone like you get at the Dairy Queen, but I'll put just, a little bit, because again, I want the taste, I want the flavor, I want the experience of it. I don't want to feel sick off of a big sugary ice cream cone, right? Throughout the day, I would mix my water in. I had a snack mid-afternoon, whether that was another, a piece of fruit that I had, or, a protein bar, or I had mixed nuts and dried fruit kinds of snacks, had that. And I'll tell you, I was never hungry. I was not hungry. When you pace your food out and you're eating nutritious foods, they're packed with dense nutrition, and you stay full and you stay satisfied longer, particularly if you are cautious to make sure that you're getting protein in. So that's kind of what the day looked like. And then each evening we went to a different restaurant for our main meal. And that was my bigger meal of the day. I had steak and mashed potatoes and dessert one night with, what was my veggie that night? I want to say it was, I think it was grilled broccoli that night. Another night we went to the Italian restaurant, and it was an enormous meal, very, I guess, culturally appropriate and on point, where they brought appetizers that were pizzas and, a pasta dish and all kinds of things before they even brought the entree. And I picked an entree that had grilled shrimp in it, but I wanted to taste the flavors of the cuisine at that meal. So, as they put all these tons of different appetizers on for our table to share, I got a bite of the pasta to just taste it. I got a little bit, a very small piece of pizza, and I ate, I think, maybe half of it, because I wanted to enjoy the pasta dish that I chose. I opted not to get a dessert that night because, frankly, none of them really tasted that appealing to me. And so instead, I had a little bit of wine that I wanted to try at that Italian restaurant. And so, I enjoyed that as kind of my dessert. And that's really what a day would look like for me. There have been times where, we've been places where they had a dessert bar in the evening after dinner. And what I typically do, if that's something that appeals to me and I want to, we will take, small samples of a couple of different desserts that look good to us, and I'll have a bite from a couple of different desserts. And so it really is about training myself to enjoy the experience, and the experience not all centering around the food. Same thing, travel back days, in terms of like, getting up, having to pack, getting the transport, it's a day long trip getting back to the airport, and then, a wait for the plane, and then a couple of hours on the plane, and then not getting in until late. We made sure that we had breakfast in the morning on the day that we were leaving, did the same thing, grabbed me a fruit snack so I could have it in my bag. We figured out our travel schedule where it was like, okay, we knew that we could have an early-ish kind of dinner before our late flight. And then we came home, and I made sure I drank a ton of water, and I went to bed, even though I was a little hungry by the time we got home, because it had been many hours since we ate. To get myself back in kind of like my clock, back on routine and normal eating schedule, I didn't eat before I went to bed. Drank water, unpacked my bag, and went ahead and conked out in the bed and then got up the next morning and had my like regular at home breakfast again. And so I hope this is, really helpful to you to kind of like think about vacation food in a way that doesn't bring you home feeling guilty or, wishing you had quote unquote stayed on track. And I also hope that it helps you think about how vacations can be a normal part of your healthy lifestyle, because that's really my intent. Now, I will tell you, There have been times in the past where I've come home from vacation and I have weighed 5, 8 pounds heavier, and I have beat myself up over that. And I wasn't as good about how to make choices that were in line with what made me feel good, and that, I felt good about enjoying my vacation, but I also felt good about staying on track with my goals. I really have mastered that pretty well, and it does take time. So give yourself some grace around that. Implement some of the strategies. Pick and choose what you feel like would work really well for you without making it a lot of work, because vacation is not supposed to be about a lot of work. But also know that I came home this time and I weighed at least a half a pound, if not almost a pound less than when I left for that vacation. Was I trying to lose weight? No. Would I have been concerned if my scale had been up 1 or 2 pounds even? No, because I know that my last tip for you is going to be, as soon as you get home the next day, you get right back into your normal routine, including eating. You've had your vacation, go right back to eating, drinking tons of water, getting movement in, enjoying the memory of your vacation. And if you come home a couple of pounds heavier, a lot of that, I will say, or at least potentially a lot of that, is inflammation, it's swelling, it's travel, it is the digestion that needs to straighten itself out, if you know what I mean. And when you go, you're going to be much closer to back to normal. So give yourself some grace there too. And don't freak out about the number on the scale. Your weight is actually a range. It's not a number, it's a range. And so if you fluctuate a little bit within that range while you're on a vacation and you have some great memories, it's totally worth it. I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you guys sticking it out with me. I know that this was a long one. I am actually putting together a resource, like an electronic resource that you can read through all of the tips that I gave you, and it will even have more for you. So if you would like that, I will put something in the comments or the notes underneath this episode that you can click on and either get it if it's already ready. I can tell you now, I'm still working on it. So at the time that you hear this episode, it's probably not ready, but you can get on my list to get it so I can make sure to get it out to you. And if you're listening to this episode at some time in the future, beyond the 1st of April of 2024, you can still click in the notes and you can get that resource at that time too. So I hope it was helpful. I would love for you to rate and review this episode, rate and review the podcast, and definitely always my inbox is open. DM me, email me, let me hear from you. I'd love to hear what other kinds of topics you guys would love to hear, you'd enjoy tips from me on. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you right back here next time.